Young writers often face a wall of doubt, questions about credibility, age, and experience. But creativity has no minimum age, and the future of storytelling depends on voices brave enough to break the mold early. Welcome to the PhD with Women on IT Hack the Future. My name is Jamil Navarrosa, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Shanti Hershenson. Our topic for today is Stories Beyond Her Years, the Rise of a Gen Z Author. Episode 199 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women in IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is critical and empathy is my module, and empathy is critical in creating spaces where young talent thrives. Join us for a positivity hack delivered with Shanti Hershenson, a prolific Gen Z author who has already penned more books than most writers do in a lifetime. From drafting novels in her bedroom with her cats by her side to exploring complex social issues through her stories, Shanti is redefining what it means to be a young creative. As a senior in high school, she has built a powerful presence on TikTok, using the platform not just to promote her work, but to inspire a new wave of teen storytellers. In this episode, she'll share her journey of writing and publishing as a teen author, how she turned her passion into a career, the habits that help her complete her first novel, and why age should never hold anyone back from telling meaningful stories. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Shanti.
Thank you so
Hello.
much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Shanti. To start, where in the world are you today?
I'm in San Diego, California.
Oh, that's very nice. So, Shanti, welcome. And you've accomplished something truly incredible before even finishing high school. When did you realize that writing wasn't just a fun hobby, but something you had to do, like a genuine career path?
So I've loved writing for about as long as I can remember. However, I never believed it was something that I could do as like a long-term career. My thought process was more, yeah, I don't know, do something else, and then maybe when I'm older and I have the time, I'll write like one book and try to get it published. And inevitably that thought process went away very quickly. It was when I in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, and I was stuck at home. I had nothing to do, and I started writing my first book. And instantly, when I started writing this book, I realized this was not something I just wanted to do for fun. I wasn't just doing this because I wanted to create a story. I mean, I was, but I was also doing it because I really wanted to share this with other people. And from there, I began researching how to publish, how to market. Even though I didn't have a book completed then, I was trying to envision what my life would be like as an author. And eventually, it just became this thing that, like, I couldn't not do. I was so obsessed with the possibility.
I saw that you have more books than many writers do in a lifetime. What is your secret sauce for productivity, and what are the key habits that help you finish that first novel and keep the momentum going?
Yeah, of course. So my like secret is that a I write every single day, and I write the same amount every single day. So I write 1,000 words every single day, no matter what. I've had the flu and I've still managed to write my 1,000 words. I had a concussion in 10th grade and I still wrote 1,000 words every single day. Um, I don't recommend. But I also, at the same time, like just that habit has allowed me to produce work every day, and it has turned this into this thing where it's like I can't not do it. Also, I'm always writing one book and I'm editing another. So I always have a new first draft in the works while I'm going back and doing the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, the millionth draft of another book. So there's always something new going on.
So, creativity often hits at unexpected times. What does your note taking or idea capture system look like? Do you use specific apps or is it all paper and pen?
Yeah, so for logging ideas, it's very random. I have in my room a couple of I have a piece of cardboard that I grabbed from something I had unboxed, and on the back of it I wrote this book idea, but typically I write all of my ideas in the same document in my notes app on my phone. So I have probably about 100 ideas of just random things that have sprung to mind ever since sixth grade. And it's a lot. A lot of the ideas are not coherent. Some of them have titles, some of them don't. Some are paragraphs and some are one or two words. But whenever I think of something, whether I've had a dream or an idea just pops into my head, or I see something in the world and I'm I need to write about this, or even not even I need to write about it, even just that's interesting. I wonder what this would look like as a book, or I could do something with this. Or even I just see something interesting and I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. I put it in this one document.
So, your books explore complex social issues. How do you, as a young author, approach researching and authentically writing about topics that might feel heavier or beyond your immediate lived experience?
Of course, so a lot of it is just about being true to myself. And especially if I'm writing about something that's difficult and very close to me, then a lot of the time it's about just trying to be authentic to my own experience, or trying to write something that feels connected to what happened to me, something that I feel comfortable writing and reading, and that I feel expresses how I feel. But other times I'll write about complex social issues that I do not I have not experienced personally, and maybe I'm a little bit more separated from. And in that case, it's a little bit of research and trying to understand other people's experiences. Maybe it's talking to people who have experienced this and making sure that what I'm putting in my work is accurate and acceptable and respectful to those experiences. And sometimes a lot of this writing can be an expression of opinion. I do try to keep I mean, for the most part, a lot of my books are sci-fi fantasy. I can kind of be very flexible with what happens in it and how these things works, but how these things work. But sometimes it is very much sci-fi fantasy, and through that, my commentary on social issues is very much an outlook of my personal opinions, and that is okay. But I do try to keep these systems rooted in some kind of fact.
We know you're a senior in high school. How do you balance the demands of school, social life, and being a prolific author? What advice do you have for other teens juggling big goals with daily responsibilities?
Yeah, so a lot of it is developing that system of balance. For me, it used to be back when I was in middle school, writing for 30 minutes and then doing my homework for 30 minutes, and just finding that space during the day to get my work done. Right now I try to allocate specific times during my day. So at school I have certain periods or blocks that I have free, and those I've dedicated to writing so that I can get all of my writing done before the school day is over, and then focus my time after school onto doing homework. I try not to let myself do other things until I've gotten the work done for the day. So if I really want to hang out with friends, I'm going to do my work first and then I'll hang out with people. Or sometimes though, it's I will hang out with people first, but I have to leave at a certain time so that I can go work.
It mentions also that you built a powerful presence on TikTok. How has a platform like TikTok changed the game for you, both in promoting your work and connecting with your readers?
Of course. So TikTok is sort of this way that I've been able to directly connect with my audience because I mainly write for teens and young adults. And through writing for teens and young adults, there is no better platform to meet these readers and interact with them than TikTok. And I also particularly like TikTok's algorithm for like short form videos. I don't need to spend hours editing a video like I would for YouTube. I can create something that takes maybe 10 to 15 minutes and then put it out there and instantly receive views and instantly connect with people and instantly like receive feedback. And I think that's the thing about it that's been really, really helpful. I also joined TikTok at a time where reading had become insanely popular with the rise of like hashtag book talk. And through that, I was able to like jump on this big new social movement and promote my work.
And speaking of book talk, it is huge. What's it like to be a part of that massive community, and how does engaging with that space influence your writing choices or story ideas?
Yeah, so it's really cool in the sense that I just get like it's like an endless community and you have so many people that you can just a talk to but also gain inspiration from. Another thing is that I can really keep an eye on what certain like story themes are trending, what certain genres. And although I'm typically the kind of person who just writes what I want to write, keeping an eye on this can help when I'm like choosing my next book from my list of ideas. And sometimes too, I'll just be exposed to like even new things I haven't thought of through like looking at other authors' work, or even for example, like just within my marketing, there are so many ideas available on the internet, and I think Book Talk is a really easy way to just look and see all these new ideas that are very specific to book marketing.
And also, the topic of the show mentions the wall of doubt young writers face regarding age and credibility. How did you handle that internal voice of doubt or any external criticism you may have received early on?
Of course, yeah, both, internally, I definitely struggle with imposter syndrome. And through that, I've had to remind myself, like, look, this is real. You did this. You are continuing to do this every day, and really just staying in touch with the reasons why I write, because at the core, I really love this. Um, Externally, I have definitely experienced some people who are like, you didn't write those books, or who have had not nice things to say on the internet. But of course, I did write these books. I wrote these books with no help. I just happen to really like writing and therefore have sat down and have written every day. Sometimes I respond to these comments on the internet. I break down my writing process and how I've managed to do this. Other times I ignore it because it's like, I know that I did this. So really, some random commenter on TikTok's opinion does not matter.
And if you could go back to the day you started writing your first novel, what is one piece of advice you'd give your younger self about pushing through the tough parts?
Of course, I would definitely tell her to like find that routine much quicker. There were periods where I'd be like, I didn't know what a writing process was. I didn't know what my routine was supposed to be. So I'd have some days where I'd write only a sentence and be like, yeah, that's enough work. I'm done. And I'd have other days where I'd write a lot. But really finding that consistency was really important. But I'd also remind myself to just enjoy the process a little more, fall in love with my characters, fall in love with the story, like become totally obsessed with your work, which I did. But at the same time, I was so worried about like, will people like my book? Is this good? Is it going to be successful? And those thoughts can be helpful to have because they did help me develop an early marketing strategy. But at the same time, it's also important to just enjoy the process and to just focus on the writing too.
And do you have any mentors or role models played in your journey? Or was there any specific teacher, family member, or writer who gave you a crucial boost of confidence?
Yeah, I have worked with a writing coach ever since I was 13, who also doubles as my editor, and that relationship has been extremely helpful. Um, because through working on my books together, and through editing like the later drafts, I really get a better understanding of like my own work, and I get the feedback that is essential to publishing books that will have a good reader experience. But it's also just been really nice to like grow up and like talk to regularly another writer, because it can be very isolating when going through school and just going through my life and being like, I don't, like a lot of people just don't get it.
So, uh, is there also uh, none of us are able to achieve success without some help along the way. Is there a particular person who you are grateful towards who helped to get where you are? And do you have any story about that?
Oh yeah, of course. First off, definitely my editor, but I kind of described that earlier. Also though too, my parents have been really great in the sense that they've given me like endless support. And that's something that's really, really special and important, because they've never been like, oh, you shouldn't do this. Why don't you try to focus on a career that's a little more attainable? Instead, they've always been like, yeah, go for it. And I think that is so crucial, and one of the things that has really helped me get as far as I've come.
What are some of the recurring themes or messages you feel most compelled to share through your stories? And why are those messages so important to you right now?
Of course, I talk a lot in my books about mainly different political issues, particularly in the United States, but also globally. And with that, I try to focus on these ideas of like empathy and recognizing that other people are human, because I think at times we forget that. And I also tackle like the experiences of being a teenager. I have releasing on December 30th is a book called Good Kids, Bad Choices. And that book really focuses in on the experience of being a teenager during a really rough time politically, and also standing up to the oppression that you may face, and really like coming to terms with the fact that you have a voice. And that's important, because at times in my life I've needed to experience that and to like understand that, but also because I've observed it so much with teenagers who just don't know their own power.
And since our podcast is Women on IT and focuses on leadership and entrepreneurship, what advice would you give to females, especially young women, to help them confidently pursue their career or start entrepreneurial journey?
Of course. I think a lot of the time, the light of young women is often dimmed, and yet it's really important to notice when that is happening and to fight back as much as possible, because we can do anything that a man can do. And in understanding that, like, there is no limit, even though society has imposed certain limits on us or tried to make us feel like certain expectations or how we're supposed to live our lives. But the truth is that like none of that is true. And in understanding that and acknowledging that, I think it's really um that's really freeing, and that really allows you to pursue your dreams in whatever field. And then also understanding that there will be people who will look down on you. There will be men in the workspace who will be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And again, to just fight back against that and to show just how much you can do.
And what are the top three soft skills all career-driven female, in your opinion, should have to succeed today?
Good question. Kind of some things I've mentioned. I think empathy is extremely important for everybody. if you can understand another person's perspective, then you can work through any disagreement. You can sort of even find a deeper connection. Um, and you can also just produce better work. Also, a work ethic is extremely important, particularly that routine of like, I'm going to do this every single day or every week or every month. I'm, even quantifying it and saying, okay, I'm going to do this much really helps you just maintain like those habits. And then also too, setting goals is so important and so overlooked. And I think huge long-term goals are really helpful and really great to motivate you. But also at the same time, creating these smaller, sort of more immediate goals can help you just sort of see it. You can see the future so much clearer.
For someone who has a brilliant idea for a story but keeps putting off starting, what is the single best tip you can give them to move from idea to chapter 1?
Good question. In a way, and it's terrible, it sounds like terrible advice, but the only thing you can do is start. You have to sit down. You can maybe find a nice quiet space, or maybe go to a cafe, have a coffee with you, listen to music, but you just need to start. I think a lot of the time writers get stuck because they're too focused on like the first line and like perfecting that hook. But everything is changeable. And your book will your the literally everything in your book will inevitably change from the first draft to the final draft. So to sit down and write words, it doesn't matter whether those words are good or even coherent. You just need to sit down and you need to put something on the page, because once you have even a couple words, it will go much quicker.
You are clearly a huge reader. What kind of books are you currently fangirling over? And how does being an avid reader inform your work as a writer?
So I read a lot of everything. Right now, the majority of the books I'm reading are for school. Since I'm a senior in high school and I'm taking 2 English classes, we are consuming a lot of literature. But also, in my free time, I really like reading everything. I read a lot of the genres I write, so I really enjoy young adult literature. I enjoy sci-fi and fantasy. But I also, if I see a book that interests me, no matter the genre, I'm going to pick it up. So I've read all kinds of random books that have maybe inspired me to explore a new genre just because I happen to see them.
And speaking of genre, let's talk about the enemies to lovers trope you love. What makes you a story engaging and binge-worthy for your generation of readers?
Oh my gosh. So when I was 13, I read a lot of young adult books and a lot of mainly dystopian, because I write a lot of dystopian, but also like many 13-year-olds, I was very obsessed with it. In that, like enemies to lovers is sort of a trope you see because it's fun and it's dramatic and it's chaotic. But I think it also speaks to really interesting themes about love, where we can have these two people who absolutely just like hate each other, and then they really start to understand each other and find that common ground. And I think that's like really actually like beautiful and important. And it's like they've seen each other at their worst, and yet they also still, hopefully, by the end of the book, will fall in love.
Oh, that's very nice. Many people want to monetize their passions. What was the moment or action that really turned your passion for writing into a functioning career?
Ooh. There were a couple different things I could say for this. I will say that probably when I started posting on social media, that was when I really was able to transform my career. I started posting on social media very early into the process, back before my debut novel came out, but when I had a couple novellas published. And that was how I really started to understand how much it takes to sell a single book, but also at the same time, how easy it is to just reach people. And once I had created a social media page, I also started branching out in other marketing tactics, such as podcasts and like newsletter promotions. And from there, I mean, a lot of the strategies that I used then are still things I use now. When I started marketing my books, this was still during the pandemic, so I didn't have the same opportunity to actually do like in-person events. But that's another thing that has really allowed my career to take off because through in-person events, I am meeting my readers face to face. I'm getting to talk to them for sometimes a really long time, and I'm getting to truly just like understand who I'm writing for.
We often hear about writer's block. Do you believe in it? And if so, what are your strategies for navigating those moments when the words just won't come?
Yes, I kind of like believe in it, and yet I also think it is perceived as a lot more frightening than it actually is. I think occasionally writer's block happens mainly because the characters are doing something that they really shouldn't be doing that like you subconsciously don't think is right. Or maybe even it can be just this mental block where like something is preventing you from just putting the words on the page and then once you understand that, typically you will be able to continue. Also, sometimes it's just natural. Sometimes you're going to feel tired or unmotivated, or maybe you're having a difficult day, and the last thing you want to do is sit down and write. But even just finding the space to overcome that, for me, I try listening to music that reminds me of the book I'm writing. I try to find ways to get excited over it, whether it's creating a Pinterest board or even drawing my characters. Because if I can get excited about the project, then it is a lot easier to write.
Shanti, are you working on any new exciting projects right now? Can you give us a little hint of what your readers can look forward to?
I am. I have been for the last month or so writing this new book that is very reminiscent of a lot of my older work, which is super exciting, but it also has a new deeper twist with the things that I'm interested in now. I'm also currently editing a book that I wrote about 2 years ago now, and I've been trying to play with the opening to make it stronger and to really like allow certain elements of the book to shine through. And then I have this other book that I just finished a draft for, and I believe I finished the third draft. And I'm probably going to go do a couple more rounds of editing, but that is potentially on the horizon as a release.
And looking ahead, what are your next big goals as you transition from high school to the next stage of your life? Will writing continue to be the star, or are you exploring other avenues?
Yeah, so writing is definitely the main thing in my life. I plan to major in creative writing in college. And my main goal is trying to expand my career while I move to a new location because I'm planning on moving across the country for college. So, really trying to develop a new network and new strategies to gain events and expand my reach. And at the same time, I'm very interested in any new opportunities I can achieve, whether it's traditional publishing. And I mean, the ultimate dream is like a film adaptation. But even that, I feel, is a goal for the future that is attainable because if this career has taught me anything, it's that anything is possible.
Yes, anything is possible. And finally, for any young person, especially young women watching this, who feels like their age is holding them back from sharing their unique voice, what is your ultimate message for encouragement?
No matter your career, no matter your passions, there is always a way that you can start early. Your age is never in the way. If you're interested in being a doctor, there are courses you can take as a student. There's so much you can learn. You can really get a head start. If you're like me and you really love writing, you are never too old or too young to write a book. So I wrote my first book when I was 11 years old. And I do think that if I had the understanding and if I really had like the time and the motivation, I could have done it much sooner. So if you're younger than that listening, there is time. But also if you're my age or if you're older, you are still never too young and you're also still never too old.
as we are heading towards the end of our show, let me ask you, Shanti. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water." In life, how are you in hot water, Shanti? How are you brewing?
Ooh, good question. I have definitely had moments where I have been in like crazy situations or I have set deadlines that just feel unattainable. And sometimes it's then where I produce my best work. I remember, a couple years ago, I had my first like really rough deadline, and it taught me so much about being able to work efficiently and dedicating so much time to this one thing because the the aftermath was so amazing. And in terms of like brewing, I am really trying to progress every single day, whether it's through writing or just being a person. And I'm always plotting new ideas. So I always have like something brewing.
And what is the number one book you can sit and think, "Oh, I wish I read before I started my career"?
Ooh, good question. So I have a couple different things I could say depending on the career and depending on the genre. But for me, my favorite book of all time is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. And although I read that when I was pretty early on in my career, and reading it much earlier probably wouldn't be a good idea because it's a bit more of a mature book. But that book taught me so much about writing difficult topics and also writing in this very natural voice. So I think it would be interesting to see the work I would have done with certain books of mine had I read the book earlier. At the same time, I'm not sure that would have been a good idea.
Perks of Being a Wallflower. I watched that movie, right? It's a movie with Emma Watson. So,
Yeah.
yes. So, let's imagine that you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast. Who would it be, and where would you choose to meet?
Good question. I have a couple different answers. I would say that Toni Morrison would be very interesting. I recently read one of her books, and I found just the way she writes to be so fascinating. And I really want to understand how she does it because so much of what she writes and the way she plays certain events, I'm like, I don't know how I could do it.
And for the last question, what is your can you please give us your favorite life lesson quote?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's see. I'm so bad with remembering quotes. So I'm going to go with a quote from Star Wars that counts as a life lesson quote. But I do think that Yoda's "do or do not, there is no try" is extremely important because really, you either have to do something or you're not going to do it. There really isn't that in between, or at least I try to live by the idea that there's not that in between.
Thank you so much, Shanti, and you've been so inspiring. And that's it for our 199 of the PhD livestream. Thank you to our guest, Shanti Hershenso. To stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Women in IT and turn on notifications to be alerted once a video has been released. Next week, tune in for a new episode with Angela Thurman. And thank you to our fabulous team, Rush, Kim, and Natalie. As always, our positivity quote comes from positive thinking only and goes look for something positive in each day. Even if some days you have to look a little harder. Today is your day. Hack the future. Hack the positivity you want. Thank you.